The Michael Kraft frame from the new Everything company. Looks like a frame, smells like a frame, tastes like a frame, but how does it skate? Michael's Pro frame from TNEC has been out for a while now, and I am a huge fan of Michael Kraft skating. I had him on the podcast, you can see a link to that below. And even though I really like the colourway, there's certain elements of the frame design that I've found a little bit off-putting. With the H-block, I tend to like a deeper groove, and as you can see, that is quite shallow. It's got the wheel protectors here that gives off the impression of being deeper than it actually is, but if you kind of cut those out from your vision, you will see that the groove is very mellow. Also, it's pointed instead of rounded, which I feel is a little bit unnatural. When you groove in a frame on, like, say, a front side, it would curve there. If you're doing it on a Royale, it would tend to go to one side because you're kind of leaning back a little bit. Pointy just feels like a little bit of an unnatural position, and I've spoken to a few people. Some people like this frame that have skated it, some people not so much. But every single one of them said that it needs broken in. You need to take it to a rough ledge and get it worked in. And even Duran Bickmore, who owns this company, says straight out the box, they don't feel that great. You need to wear them in. I tend to think a great product doesn't need worn in. Also, someone said to me that when they skated this, it felt like an Aeon H-block. I mean, obviously it bears no comparison to an Aeon H-block when you look at it, but they said it had a similar feeling of kind of sliding back and forth when you're doing groove tricks, which I'm not really a fan of the Aeon H-block. I think it's too long and mellow, and it feels a little bit unstable when I'm doing like Royales and Unities and Savannahs. So that was one of my least favourite parts of an Aeon frame. But after speaking to Duran Bickmore on Platform Podcast, again, there's a link below, I just became so fond of the guy. He was so funny and insightful. He's done a lot in the industry. He's opened up a shop. He's started his brand. He knows what he's talking about. He knows what customers want. He's also a really good skater, so he knows how to put a product through its paces. And he swears by this thing. And by the end of the episode, I was determined to get a pair. Then TNEC did an offer where they were doing a bundle of these, a flat setup of dead wheels, bearings and spacers for a ridiculously good price. I ended up ordering a set on their website. My friend Sam, who lives in Texas, was coming to Winter Clash, got them delivered to him in Texas, and he brought them to Winter Clash for me, so saved a bit of money on postage. I am really intrigued to try these out, but I'm kind of worried if I'm going to like them. This is one of these products that I want to be adventurous, I want to experiment, I want to give it a go, but I am highly skeptical about it. Another element that someone pointed out online, which I'm not entirely sure I agree with, they said that because the axles were so unique that if you damaged one, it would be really hard to get another kind of standard axle in there, which I guess is true, but I can't remember the last time I actually broke or rounded off or threaded an axle, and I actually quite like that it spells out TNEC on the side. I think it gives it a unique selling point along with the text at the top. So yeah, that's one of those criticisms about the frame that I don't really see being an issue. And by the power of editing, I have a full setup here. So I have gone with the TNEC frame, which is a side large, which I think is 270 millimeters, something like that. It's basically the exact same length as a Fluid 5. And I have put in mushroom blading buddies wheels, which are 58 millimeter 90A. And it's a very similar setup to what Michael Kraft was using before he got picked up by Dream Urethane. He was riding the old face wheels with this, which the buddies are basically directly inspired by the old face wheels. I quite like how it looks. We like the kind of off-white with the black and the green. I figured if I use a skate that I trust and a setup that I trust, it will hopefully make the break-in period a little bit easier with the skate. I am going to absolutely thrash these on some rough ledges near my house as soon as it stops raining. I currently also have winter clashitis, which if you've ever been to Winter Clash, it is the ultimate disease carrier event because you're just hugging and saying hello to so many people from different countries. So I'm loaded with something that I really hope is not COVID, but really looking forward to getting out in these soon. Gonna inevitably skate some indoor skate parks because it's February in Scotland and the weather is still absolutely shocking. The next time you see these, they're gonna be beaten up a little bit, hopefully have a significant groove in them, and I will then offer my thoughts. I've been riding the Michael Kraft TNEC frame for about 7 sessions now. As you can see, I have developed quite a significant groove on the backslide plate, or backslide side of the frame. So here's my thoughts. Before I took them out for a session, I got in touch with Michael Kraft himself just because I was a little bit apprehensive about how shallow the groove is. I am not that confident when it comes to things like that, and he just offered some great advice. He said, take them to a really rough ledge, wear them in for a really short time, just make sure you've got some starter grooves on there and you will be solid. So I took his advice. I went to one of the roughest ledges I know, which just so happens to be a 10-minute drive from my house. And a couple of people have said that when they were doing sole grinds, their front foot would like slip off. And some other people said that when they were doing back farves, they'd slip off just because the H-block was so shallow. And I did find that the very first sole grind I did, my front foot just skipped off the ledge. So I decided to just spend 10-15 minutes just going back and forth, just doing safety tricks. So I was just doing royales and unities, and I would check the groove just after every grind to see how it was getting along. And this ledge has not been prepared properly, it's not been rub bricked, it's not been lacquered, someone's just waxed onto rough concrete, which means it slides but it eats up your frame. So this is perfect for getting a starter groove. I think it was 10 royales and 10 unities. Then I went to a higher, like knee-high ledge that's a lot smoother, a lot more worn in, got extra wax on it. And again, just did a bunch of back unities, bunch of front royales, bunch of farves. After 15 minutes, this is how my frame looked. It had a significant groove on pretty much every side, apart from my weakest kind of switch sole part. And that night I went to Unit 23 skate park, was skating rails, coping, angle iron, and did not have a single issue. Did not slip off once, rarely caught any kind of wheel bite whatsoever, and just had a great time. Now, there are numerous other ways you can put a groove in your skates. You can take a Dremel to them, which I know is what Mikhail Wietzman did to his to get a little bit of a deeper groove. I would argue that's a little bit lazy and might not give you a natural groove, the kind of groove that you would get if you skate it in yourself, but it's quick, it's efficient, and it does work. Another approach is to take it to just an unwaxed curb near your house and just rub it back and forth until you get the desired groove depth that you want. I probably wouldn't recommend doing that. It's just a bit joyless and a bit kind of labor intensive and boring. Like, why would you want to do that when you can just fire at the same ledge, just doing front sides, back sides, royales, unities, soul grinds until you're essentially left with that. Plus, it's a pretty good warm up. Like I said, it took less than 15 minutes to get a decent groove in the skate to the point where I was happy, comfortable, feeling confident just doing any trick on it. Which brings me to my first bit of advice with this frame. The first time you get it, don't take it to your local perfect ledge, your local marble ledge, or something that's really smooth with no friction. Don't take it to your local skate park because you might not have a good time. You might slip off loads, you might catch wheel bite, you might just not have a great time. Take a little bit of time, little 15 minutes, like I said, just do a bunch of basic grinds. You start to get a little bit of a groove on it and you will enjoy these frames a lot more. Here's a look at my right skate, so the skate that I kind of lead with when I'm doing top acids and stuff like that, and you can see I've also got a fairly decent groove on either side there. As you can see, I've skated a bunch of obstacles on this. I've skated rough ledges, smooth ledges, tiled ledges, P-rails, coping, angle iron. I really enjoyed this frame, and some of the things that I noticed about it was, one, in terms of maneuverability, it doesn't feel any different to a Fluid 5. It's the same length, it's got the same wheel distribution, so striding, rolling around, carving, turning felt pretty much the same. I love the Fluid 5 for how it kind of maneuvers about, and I feel the exact same about this. I've got no complaints whatsoever in terms of energy transfer or turning. In terms of grinding, I was quite surprised by these. I didn't really expect this. After initially wearing them in and going to Unit 23 skate park, I did just one grind along an angle iron box. It's this kind of like flat ledge setup that pretty much every time I go there, I'll do a grind on it, it'll be sticky, we'll wax the hell out of it and then we'll be able to session it. The first time I got there, I did a Royale and a Mistral clean across the thing to the point where I actually asked the guys who were already skating there if they'd waxed everything already, and they said no, and I watched them grind the same obstacle and do it significantly slower. So these frames are very fast. Another thing I noticed, and this is going to sound quite stupid, but just bear with me, these frames feel incredibly hard. And what I mean by that is you can get quite soft frames on the market, like the Ground Control Featherlight 3, which if you just hold it in your hand without the wheels in, you can squeeze the frame walls together. They're really, really bendy. And what that means is there's less chance of breaking them, and they're great on gaps. But in terms of sliding, they do feel a little bit slower than other frames. These feel rock solid. When you land on them, you get a nice dull thud. They don't sound like hollow and cheap like some other frames I'm not going to name. And when you're sliding on them, you can tell how hard they are. When you're sliding on P-rails, I would skate at it with not much speed at all, jump on a Royale or a Unity or a Farv and just fly to the end with very little effort. So my main comments about these are maneuver great, slide well, and they feel really sturdy. They feel like they'll take abuse. I mean, hell, I have given them abuse, and so far, I'm really, really enjoying them. In conclusion, I have been pleasantly surprised by the TNEC Michael Kraft frame. I will be honest, one of the main reasons I bought it was because of the colour. The second reason I bought it is because I wanted to support Michael and Duran, because I just think they're both lovely guys and I really like what they're doing in rollerblading. But I did not expect to enjoy this as much as I did. I thought I would skate these, do a review on them, possibly a negative review, and then just move back on to either Fluid 5s or get myself another set of Ententes. But I'm going to stick with these for the time being. I'm going to session these on the standard Omnis because now that I've got a nice groove worn in, I really like how they slide. They just feel really enjoyable. And my main piece of advice to people would be, if you've not tried these yet, I would recommend giving them a shot. If you already have a set of these and you've given up on them, give them another chance, take them to a rough ledge, get yourself a nice groove. With these compared to the Fluid 5, I was sometimes finding that I was getting wheel bite with the Fluid 5. Not often, but sometimes, and was getting pitched to the ground. I'm definitely getting less wheel bite with these, and I think Duran might have a point about the 2 points of contact here, protecting it from the wheel and giving more stability, because it definitely feels that way. I don't feel any movement when I'm on the ground. It feels nice and locked in and comfortable. Now, this is definitely not my favourite flat frame on the market, but it is now in the top 3. Number 1 is the Entente Diridari, just because I love it to bits and I think it's the best frame in the market, but it's also double the price of this. Number 2 is the Icon AG60 frame from Justin Thursday. Love the wheel protection, just think it's a really interesting, unique design and a joy to skate. And number 3 was previously the Fluid 5, but it's been replaced by the TNEC Michael Kraft frame. It's got the same maneuverability, it feels the same on the skate, but it slides, I think, a lot faster, and I don't think it's got as much wheel bite. And when you're skating mainly rough ledges like I am, or street spots, you want something that slides and you want something that you're not going to get hung up on. If you like this video, consider giving it a thumbs up and leaving a comment or subscribing to the channel. We've also got a Patreon, which you can join for as little as £3 a month. There's a ton of videos on there. There's also outtakes from this review where I just follow my face or say dumb stuff in front of the camera, so you can just laugh at my expense. If you've skated these frames, let me know in the comments what you think, positive, negative. If you haven't skated these frames, let me know if this has kind of influenced your decision in any way about trying them. And if you have and you've given up on them, let me know if you've actually broken them in properly, if you have tried them in a rough ledge, or if you did just try them once at a skate park and give up on them, because I've been guilty of that in the past and I know many others have. That's enough rambling on from me. Speak to you guys soon.